First off, I just want to start off and just say how excited I am to be a part of this event. A lot of great energy and excitement right now in San Marcos, and pretty honored and privileged to be the next head coach here, and especially be a part of this first-class event that's going on here at the Superdome. Got to thank every one of you guys for coming out here and promoting this conference. I think this is a very competitive conference. I think it's one of the better ones out there in terms of parity throughout the league and how competitive it is. And I appreciate every one of you guys just giving us the opportunity to keep promoting this and selling the Sun Belt Conference. So as you guys see, this is a first-class event. I've been around to a lot of different conferences, Pac-12, SEC, Big 12, and this is right up there in the ranks of the first-class hospitality that the Sun Belt is given. So I appreciate all you guys for promoting the Sun Belt. But honored today to bring two student athletes that actually have a little more experience at Media Day than I do, because they actually represented Texas State last year at this event. So you bring in Aaron Brewer and Brian London, two guys that are just great student athletes. Aaron Brewer is one of the most multiple offensive linemen that I've been a part of a lot of first-round draft picks. This is a kid that can play all different positions, and you bring in Brian London, who led the Sun Belt in tackles last year. So they're not only just great athletes and good players, but they also represent our university with integrity and character, and that's very honored and proud of these guys to have him here and represent Texas State University. But over the past 7-8 months, it's been a blur for me. The whole analogy of drinking out of a fire hose is pretty accurate as a first-time head coach. But the first thing that we did is we hired a staff that has deep Texas ties. I have a coaching staff that I would put up against a lot of coaching staffs in the country just based off of their ties of recruiting the state of Texas. But all of them come from the Power 5 level. They do it at a high. They've done it at a high. At higher places and bigger conferences, and they know what they're doing, which allows me to focus on other facets of the program, of anything that touches our program, because I trust these coaches, not from a recruiting standpoint but also from a coaching standpoint, which is great for me because it allows me to look at different things in terms of nutrition and strength and conditioning and academics, and really the word that you hear a lot right now is alignment, and it gives me the opportunity to work with our Director of Athletics, Larry Tice, Dr. Tice, who I work with him hand in hand, and President Trouth. You got to thank those two for allowing me the opportunity to be the next head coach here and keeping the alignment right, which is good because you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with, and when you have a whole university and a community all pulling in the same direction and moving in having the same vision, there's a lot of good things that are going to happen when you have those forces. But I'm going to open it up for questions right now. Let's go.
Coach, how valuable is a veteran coaching staff when you're preparing a team for a challenging opener like Texas A&M? What can they do to settle the kids down?
Yeah, it's one of those things where a lot of my staff has been through the Big 12, and I coached at Texas A&M. Our linebackers coach was a captain at Archie McDaniel was a captain for Texas A&M. I got 6 coaches from Texas Tech and 2 from Oklahoma State. So we've got a lot of guys that have been in big games. They understand the magnitude of it, but it's refreshing to me because they can talk to the players and just tell them that, hey, you got to take it one play at a time, worry about your job. There's going to be a lot of outside factors from an atmosphere, national TV. Just that national TV stage to begin with is enough. So there's going to be a lot of people looking at you and the eyes on you, but that's why you surround yourself with the staff that has done it at a higher level, and they try to get those kids in a good position and comfortable to go out there and play.
Hey, Coach, it's Garrett Martin from KTSW San Marcos. So you've recently emphasized your emphasis to recruit players from San Antonio, Austin. What's the driving factor from wanting to keep local kids coming to San Marcos?
Yeah, I've been fortunate to recruit Central Texas for 10 to 12 years now, and there's a lot of talent. I've signed a lot of good players out of San Antonio and the Austin areas, and some that went on to the NFL. And when you look at the state of Texas, it just being so centrally located, and there's so many coaches from across the country all come into, especially the DFW area and the Houston area, which that area kind of gets overlooked at times. So I have a staff that also looks deep into West Texas and East Texas as well, because I think those are under-recruited areas too. But we're going to do a good job at spreading ourselves across the entire state, but there's going to be an emphasis on trying to keep people in their backyard.
Coach Andrew Zimmel, University Star. It's been a couple years now since Texas State's brought a quarterback to Media Day. You didn't bring one this year because, first time and stuff. But working with the quarterbacks that you see now, do you see a future? What do you think right now in your quarterback room?
Yeah, there's going to be some coach speak with this right now, but it is wide open right now. No one's ever going to come in here and declare their starting quarterback right now. But we have a lot of moving parts in that room, and there's something that I take a lot of pride in the quarterback position. I got 7 active NFL quarterbacks right now, and I don't think there's anybody in the country that has that many guys. And what we've done with those quarterbacks is we play to their strengths. We want the next guy to come in and be their own man and understand that we're going to work with them and we're going to put them in positions that they are good at. And if you look at Tyler Vitt, you look at Gresh Jensen and Jalen Gibson, those are 3 different quarterbacks. All right, and we got to figure out what they do good, and we would call a game differently with all 3 of them in there. So we've got to make sure that we put them in situations throughout fall camp, all right, that are kind of high intensity, high stress, where they got to think and see who's the guys that are just going to move the ball, do smart things, be efficient, get the ball in the end zone, don't take unnecessary plays or turnovers. And we're not ready to declare that yet until we can put them in some higher, stress situations. You got Gresh Jensen coming in, who's very familiar with Bob Stitt, who is calling the plays. So there's a familiarity with that, which is always a comfort for a play caller. But I have not seen a separation in that room because Tyler Vitt has played. He seems to have that leadership mentality that those kids, he can galvanize that locker room, which, there's a lot of intangibles to quarterbacks. So I'm really pretty intrigued with where that competition is going to go, because all the other positions are kind of solidified in a way, where that one I'm just not ready to just hand that one out yet. And I want to see some improvement on both ends with all the quarterbacks.
Coach, what do you feel like is going to be your main focus heading into this fall, and what do you feel like you're going to be able to do differently than you couldn't do in the spring?
Yeah, after going through spring and sitting down and looking at what we need to improve on as a team, like if you look at how they played last year, they lost 4 games within a touchdown, and they lost 6 games within 10 points. And to me, that goes down to playing together and playing smart, efficient football. So that really goes down to probably 2 to 5 plays that change the outcome of the game. And what we've got to do is eliminate that and especially from an offensive perspective, where we are going to start emphasizing that on the first day of fall camp on how we've got to play together as a team. We have to pay attention to detail, worry about the little things, and don't put ourselves in bad situations. If we can do that, we can be competitive in every single game, but it's the whole aspect of playing together and then being able to finish games at the end. So that's kind of going off of what we're going to do in fall camp, is we've got to put these guys in situations where they've got to think all the time, where I typically haven't put them in situational football until about 4, 5, 6, 7 practices down the line. We're going to start situations from day one just so we can start becoming a smarter football team.
Hi, Coach. Bobak Kyrie with Reddit College Football. Where do you see Texas State recruiting right now, especially as you prepare for this season? Are you about where you'd like to be, or because obviously you're always planning for that next squad? How is recruiting looking, and is it at all taking a backseat to just preparing for this first season?
No, recruiting is always the first thing that we've got to focus on. So we're constantly recruiting, but right now, I like where we're at. We have 4 commitments right now, which is fine with me. Normally I've been a part of universities that have 18 commitments right now that, sometimes you start looking through their senior tape and you're like, we may have second thoughts on the kid, where I like how we're not rushing into it. We're trying to find guys that fit our program and our culture that we're trying to create. So I really like where I'm at, where especially with the 2 signing days, I've found out that you can get a lot of quality players in that second signing period. And that's why we're not in a complete rush to just sign guys, right? There's also words that you guys, a hot topic that has been around is the transfer portal. All right, that's something that, our league can use, pretty efficiently. If you look at a lot of the top players in this league, they've came from other different universities. And and that just shows you where that transfer portal can work. So as a staff, we have to sit there and get a database as large as we possibly can, and we have to start just whittling it down. And you're not going to get every single one of them, obviously, but once you get down your list, you've got to see if that kid is comparable to the rest of the conference, because the goal is to win the conference. So if that kid's not comparable to the rest of the conference, or you don't think you can win with that kid, then that's when the transfer market and transfer portal comes into play. So we're being very patient with how we're approaching it, and we're recruiting and trying to just gather up as much information and data on all these kids in the state of Texas.
Hey, Jake. Trent Dashner, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Blake Anderson's, I think, is the longest tenured coach in this league right now. How well do you know him, and what can you learn from a guy like that who's had success in this league as well as he has?
Yeah, I've been following Coach Anderson for a long time. Just from the Larry Fedora tree and just being around those guys. It's interesting how college football, we all know each other in some particular way, and just being able to meet a lot of those guys that know him or been around him through the Oklahoma State tree and through Fedora and all that, nothing but great things have always been said about him, and a stand-up, high-character guy, which is probably the best ambassador for this conference right now, just based off of where he's been, all the adversity that him and his family have gone through, and how he handles that with such integrity. It shows you the character of that guy. So, and it doesn't surprise me that his teams play that way, because the teams are normally a reflection of the head coach, and you can see the resiliency of his teams.
Coach, this is the first time, I think, in your career where the expectations might not be as high. So you can play around a little bit more. Do you have anything up your sleeve?
Well, I always got something up my sleeve now, but you can't give away all your secrets at this place. But I enjoy, it's the whole, you hear a lot of coach speak terms of the process and worry like one day at a time, and there's so much truth to that. There's low expectations about our team, in the outside, the extrinsic factors, but we have high expectations of ourselves. And that's what we're trying to develop, is a winning culture at Texas State. And we're going to get there where we worry about the things that we can control, and that's daily getting up and trying to be the best version of yourself and try to further yourself in the university, because if collectively we do great things, individually it's going to reward everybody. So that's been the fun part about a lot of people get upset about where we're predicted and all that. I don't. I just worry about what we can control, and just know that if we do the right things and play smart football and play together, we can be competitive in every single game we play.
Hey, Coach, do you sense any extra eagerness, any extra animosity to change the losing culture the past few seasons to your new program?
I don't have any animosity. I thought what Coach Withers did previously, he left a good culture in that locker room. And in college football, it's a matter of winning with instantaneously. Everything in this culture that we're part of is all about winning, instant gratification and everything, which, he had a plan in place. I've got 30 seniors on our team, approximately around there. So it is a very experienced group. This group's been through a lot. They've been, some of them are on their fourth defensive coordinator, some of them on their third head football coach. And I think that they are a pretty good group of kids that have stuck together, and they're just wanting to do everything they can and end their senior year on a high note. And that's kind of my job right now, is to make sure that this senior class, who's going to be the first group to start the foundation of our program, ends on a high note.
Coach, why did you choose Bob Stitt as your offensive coordinator? What were the things that set him apart for you?
Yeah, Coach Stitt and I go way back. We started meeting at the One Back Clinic we called it the One Back Clinic. It was an event that was kind of set up with Mike Leach and Kevin Sumlin and Dana Holgerson came with Mike Leach. So there was just a bunch of guys at the time that were running the one back offense that not very many people were running. It was the spread system. Now everybody's running it. But we used to always just get together in these conferences, and Bob Stitt was always that guy that was around. And over the years, I used a lot of his stuff at the different schools that I've been at. And he's a very innovative mind. He's done more with less. And he's been calling plays for 30 years, so there's a lot of experience. He was a head coach at Montana, so the guy has worked from nothing, from really Division II. He was the offense coordinator at Austin College, and he worked himself all the way to developing a program at Colorado School of Mines to being the head coach of Montana. So his resume and track record alone is great. Now, yeah, I'm giving up the play calling duties, which has been difficult for me, but that's just the nature of being competitive. But I couldn't be, more happy with giving it to a guy that's just as distinguished as he is. The quick motion toss play, for instance, is the play that he created. There's things like that you watch every single game and you see a staple of what Bob Stitt did. So I feel so good with him just handling the offensive side, and that allows me to go focus on some other things needed to advance this program. There's got to be more than that.
Just following the league from, I guess, afar the last couple of years, what do you know about the Sun Belt as a football conference, and what are you kind of expecting to see this year?
Yeah, and it's like what I've said. I think that it doesn't get the credit that it deserves. I've played against, I played against ULM at Texas A&M. That was 2014. And we were in a dogfight the entire game. There's enough talent in here. It's a very competitive league. When you have 3 10-win teams, I don't know if there's another conference out there that has 3 10-win programs in the conference. Maybe one, maybe 2, but I doubt that. It just shows you the parity. You look at all the games; they're all very competitive. And it's like I said, we lost 6 games within 10 points. It's not like teams are just completely blowing everybody out, and there's just a dominant force. There's a lot of quality teams in here, and again, I think there's a lot of great coaches. You look at the backgrounds of these head coaches; they all come from SEC. They all are very qualified guys that can really be doing anything that they wanted to with their careers. So it just shows you how this conference, from about 5-6 years ago to where it's now, it is completely different than the exposure, the attention, the coaches, the players. Just everything is just trending upwards with this conference.
So just dabbing a little bit in hypotheticals, if your first season as head coach doesn't pan out so well and you maybe have a losing season, what's your kind of methods for bouncing back in your second season and just instilling that everything's going to be all right and just keep playing the next play?
Yeah, it's all about one day at a time. It's a tough game, but it is a team game, and that's what you got to keep developing the culture. It's got to come down to the team and playing together. And I've been a part of teams that didn't perform as high as they needed to, and I've been a part of teams that performed way higher than they should have. And that's why coaches, you hear a lot of coach speak of just staying the course and process driven, and it's about just continuing to grind and work and make sure that you're doing everything the right way and putting those kids in the right position. You never look at wins and losses. You just you worry about how we can keep getting this team better currently. And the competitive side of it, you want to win every single game, but when it doesn't happen, you got to get back to the drawing board and you got to fix what the deficiencies are and keep moving forward. That's the beautiful thing about football is that you can start a year off and be a completely different identity by the end of it based off of injuries or just anything that may occur. So you just got to be ready to keep putting those guys in the right position to have success.